At dinner, Dad lifted his glass and said, "Your sister is the only one who truly helps this family." Everyone clapped. I smiled and replied, "Then I guess she won't need the $4,400 I send every month for her kid's school." The room went silent. My sister froze, and her husband just stared at me. You ever sit at a table full of people who claim to love you, but somehow manage to make you feel like a damn ghost? That was me last Saturday. My dad turned 60 and decided to throw himself a big dinner. Not a party. He hates the word party. A dinner, formal, catered, everyone in their best clothes like it was a wedding rehearsal. They rented out this fancy room at a restaurant downtown. Candles, live jazz, printed menus with our last name on top, like we were some dynasty. My mom planned every inch of it like she was hosting royalty. And in a way, she was Melanie was coming. Melanie, my younger sister, the golden child, the success story, the mom of the year, the one who can do no wrong. She arrived with her husband Tyler, and their 2 kids both dressed like catalog models. You'd think they were the Kennedys if you didn't know better. My cousin Jenna even said loud enough for me to hear, "Melanie always looks so put together, doesn't she?" I just smiled and poured another glass of wine. I don't usually go to these things. Work keeps me busy, and honestly, they drain me. But this was Dad's 60th, the big one, the kind you can't skip without being branded the ungrateful daughter forever. So, I showed up, smiled, nodded along to conversations, answered the same questions about when I'd be settling down, and tried not to roll my eyes every time someone complimented Melanie's parenting. Then, dinner started. Appetizers, small talk, the usual. Tyler was droning on about refinancing their mortgage and how it was such a smart move, as if he invented interest rates. Melanie kept brushing invisible lint off her dress and tossing her hair like she was in a shampoo commercial. I listened. I nodded. I did what I always do. Stayed in my lane. And then my father stood up to make a toast. He tapped his glass with a spoon and waited for everyone to quiet down. He was smiling. He always smiles before saying something that'll hit like a punch in the throat. He said he was grateful for family, for the life he built, for my mother. Then he turned to Melanie, lifted his glass, and said, "Your sister's the only one who actually helps this family." The room broke into applause. Real actual applause. Aunt Linda clapped like she was at the opera. Tyler leaned back, smug like he was waiting for the cameras to pan to him. Melanie had this fake surprised look on her face, like she didn't know it was coming, even though she absolutely did. And I sat there smiling. I didn't move at first. Just let them enjoy their little moment. But when the clapping died down, I stood up slowly and raised my glass, too. Then she won't need the $4,400 I send each month for her kid's school. Just like that. Simple. No anger in my voice. No drama. I said it like I was commenting on the wine. Silence hit the table like someone had pulled the fire alarm. Even the wait staff froze. I swear the jazz trio missed a beat. Melanie blinked. Tyler looked like I slapped him. My mom's mouth was half open. And Dad, he just stared at me like he'd heard a noise he couldn't quite place. Kept going for 2 years now. Tuition, tutoring, after our, even that summer robotics camp last July. You know, the one she posted about like they paid for it themselves. I sat down, took a sip of my drink. Nobody clapped that time. Melanie didn't say a word. Her face was blank, like her brain had suddenly gone offline. Tyler looked like he wanted to jump in, but then thought better of it. Nobody said thank you. Nobody asked why I kept it quiet. Nobody defended me. So I just finished my meal, made polite conversation with Jenna, and left before dessert. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, already drafting the email to my accountant. Payments stop next month. Let's see how helpful she is on her own. I expected a storm after that dinner. At least some kind of message. Maybe from Tyler asking what the hell I was thinking, or Melanie trying to explain herself. But nothing came. No texts, no calls, not even a fake apology. Saturday passed, Sunday too. By Monday, the silence had settled in like fog. It was so quiet it was almost funny. Like they thought if they didn't mention it, maybe I'd feel bad enough to undo it on my own. Is that I emailed my accountant, told him to stop all transfers to Melanie's account. No more tuition payments. No more after our, no more robotics camp. No more anything. The money I'd been sending each month quietly without fail for 2 straight years would now stay exactly where it belonged with me. He replied within the hour. Done. Just that. A small word, but it felt like a weightlifting. I expected that to be the trigger, but even then, Nothing. Just more curated social media posts from Melanie pretending her life was picture perfect. Fall leaves, matching jackets on the kids, #grateful. One post said, private blessings, not public announcements, and I almost choked. She must have thought she was being clever. Then 5 days after the dinner, she texted, "Hey, can we talk?" I told her to come by that evening. I wasn't going to chase her. She showed up dressed like she was still trying to convince me, or maybe herself, that nothing had changed. Expensive bag, gold earrings, hair done like she was stepping out of a commercial. She didn't sit down. "So that's it?" she asked. "That's it." "Well, you really needed to embarrass me like that." I said she embarrassed herself when she let our father believe she was the one doing all the helping. I didn't tell him to say that. You didn't correct him either. She didn't have a comeback for that. Just stood there shifting her weight like she was deciding whether to scream or cry. Fine, let it be that way. She left like she expected me to call her back. I didn't. What happened next didn't even take long. Melanie's post slowed down, then stopped altogether. Tyler's Facebook went dark. Then came the homeschool photos, grainy, low-effort shots with vague captions like making it work and new beginnings. Except I knew what was really happening. One of my friends works part-time at the same school the kids had gone to. She texted me, "Did you hear Melanie pulled them out?" 2 days after that, Melanie showed up again. No text this time. Just rang my bell at 8:40 p.m. I opened the door, and she walked in like she owned the place. Same sister who used to call me in tears asking for help was now glaring at me like I'd stolen something from her. "You don't get it," she said. "You've ruined everything." I let her talk. Tyler's hours got cut. They had to put a hold on their mortgage. The credit cards were maxed out. The school wouldn't let them run another month unpaid. She said the kids were confused, angry, and that it was my fault. That I threw them into chaos over some bruised ego. I reminded her that for 2 years I gave nearly half my salary to make sure her family didn't drown. I never once asked for recognition. I never once brought it up until she let me be humiliated like I was the useless one. She didn't apologize. Instead, she said this, "You've always been jealous of me." That did it. I didn't think I didn't plan it. My hand just moved. The sound of the slap was louder than I expected. The kind of sound that makes a room stop breathing. She stood there frozen, blinking, then turned around and walked out without a word. I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel sorry either. I felt done. Whatever came next, she could face it without my help. After Melanie walked out of my apartment that night, I sat there in the dark, not moving for at least an hour. No music, no TV, no lights, just silence. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel broken either. I felt something else, like a knot in my chest had finally come undone. 2 years of quiet resentment, late-night transfers, and watching her parade around like a queen while I picked up the bill. It had all been sitting under my skin, waiting to boil over. And now it had. The first thing I noticed the next morning was how peaceful my bank app looked. No pending transfers, no automatic deductions for someone else's life, just my money sitting there waiting to be used for me for once. The second thing I noticed was the silence. Melanie didn't text. Tyler didn't call. No guilt trip, no drama, nothing. But then the silence started to stretch like they were trying to wait me out. I ignored it. I focused on work, started planning a solo trip I'd been putting off for years. I didn't even feel petty. I felt like I was reclaiming something. But the fallout started fast. One of my old college friends who worked part-time at the kids' private school texted me a few days later. Casual like she didn't know anything. "Hey, weird question, but didn't your niece and nephew go to Arbor Hills? Just saw a withdrawal notice go out for 2 students, siblings?" Whole thing seemed kind of sudden. I replied with a shrug emoji and kept walking. A week later, my cousin Jenna posted a group photo at some community festival. In the background, clear as day, was Melanie, except she looked off. No makeup, wearing flats and a plain t-shirt, hair tied back like she just rolled out of bed. No staged smile, no curated angles, and no Tyler. Then came the house listing. A guy from my high school who still lives in our hometown posted a picture of Melanie's house. The one they used to brag about constantly with a for sale sign in front and the caption, "Crazy market right now." I didn't comment, didn't message her, just watched the quiet unravel. Then 12 days after that dinner, Melanie showed up again, this time at my job. I was walking through the parking lot after a long day, carrying my laptop bag and half a bottle of iced coffee when I saw her leaning against a car across from mine. Big sunglasses, hoodie, trying to look casual like she wasn't slowly coming apart. She walked over without a word. Didn't ask how I was. Didn't apologize. I just need help. 1 month. She looked tired. Her voice didn't have that usual edge. It almost sounded like defeat. Almost. But then she kept going. We're behind, okay? The school wouldn't let us stretch another month. Tyler's hours got cut. Our savings are gone. We didn't expect the shift to happen so fast. I asked her what shift she meant. She looked at me like I was stupid. You cutting us off. You didn't give us any warning. I let out a quiet laugh. I gave you 2 years. She got quiet for a second, like she was deciding how honest to be. Just 1 month. I swear I'll figure it out after that. I asked her how she planned to figure it out. He shrugged. Said they'd sell the dining table. Maybe her engagement ring. Something. Anything. She just needed breathing room. I didn't answer. That's when her tone shifted, like she finally realized that begging wasn't going to work anymore. You think this makes you better than me, don't you? She said, her voice sharp and bitter. You think just because you've got your little job and no kids, that means you're more responsible? She said it like an insult, like not having children was something shameful, something I should apologize for. I just looked at her, calm, steady, and said the one thing I knew she couldn't twist. You don't know what gratitude looks like. She froze, eyes wide, silent. Then she turned and walked away without another word. I stood there long after she was gone, realizing what had finally come out. That to her, I wasn't family. I was a wallet. But something else clicked in that moment too. Melanie was out of moves. Tyler couldn't fix it this time. The house was on the market, the kids were out of school. Every backup plan she had was gone. No one was coming to save her. Not this time. After that, I didn't think I'd hear from her again. She'd said her piece, and I'd said mine. But 4 days later, I got an email from the school, confirmation of sponsorship, fall semester. They said the family had informed them I'd be continuing to pay the kids' tuition. I hadn't agreed to anything. She'd told them I was paying, used my name like it was hers to use. That night, Tyler called, polite, almost careful, saying the kids believed they were going back to school because Melanie told them I'd help again. Then he said something that stuck. She told them you were their second mom. That hit harder than I expected. I thought about every bill, every doctor visit, every late-night phone call when she needed money. I wasn't a sister. I'd been a safety net she pretended was endless. The next morning, I emailed the school back. I would not be sponsoring the kids anymore, and any claims otherwise were false. Then I blocked both of them. 3 days later, a box showed up at my door. No name, no postage, just sitting there. Inside were earrings I hadn't seen in months, and a note written on paper torn from my journal. You left these at the lake house last summer. Thought you'd want them back. But the handwriting wasn't hers. It was a child's. She'd made one of her kids write the note for something she stole. I felt sick. That night, I checked the school's website. The kids' names were gone. Then came an email from my dad. Call me, please. I knew what it was before I even opened it. The next day, I went to their house. It felt like walking into an intervention. Everyone was already seated. My parents, Tyler, and Melanie, arms crossed like she was the victim. Dad said it wasn't about the past, just the kids, how they were struggling and needed help with school. He asked for a couple thousand, just to hold their spots. I asked one question. Has anyone ever thanked me for what I already gave? Silence. Then Melanie said, we didn't ask you to. That was it. I turned to leave, but then my dad stopped me. He apologized, really apologized, for believing her lies and letting her use me. He handed me a check and said, we're not expecting you to do this alone anymore. Just help them through this patch. I agreed, but only on my terms. I'd pay the school directly for 2 months. No more. When I left, it felt final. But 3 days later, Melanie showed up at my door. No call, no warning. She looked exhausted, holding her phone like it was keeping her upright. Can I come in? She asked. I let her. She stood there, eyes glassy, and said the words I'd waited years to hear, but didn't quite believe. Thank you. I was wrong. You've done more for my family than I ever admitted that I never meant for things to turn out like this. I was just trying to hold everything together. He said all the right words, the kind that sound perfect when someone's coached through them. Every sentence was too polished, too rehearsed. The apology had the rhythm of something memorized, and I could almost hear my mother's tone behind it. Maybe even my dad's or Tyler's influence. She said, I know I should have told the truth. He said, I let pride get in the way. He said, I'm grateful, truly, but none of it felt like it came from her. I wasn't even angry, I just noticed. Because even if she didn't mean half of it, she had to say it now. Not because she wanted forgiveness, but because she needed something from me. Silence. She needed me not to talk, not to expose what she'd done, not to let the story spiral any further. So, I let her speak. I nodded. When she finished, I didn't say you're welcome. I said, good luck. Because whatever came next, I wasn't going to be part of it. When Melanie left my apartment, I felt nothing. No relief, no closure, no resentment. It was simply over. She came, recited her script, and left. No real emotion, just enough sincerity to keep the family calm. It wasn't for me. I knew that the second she opened her mouth. It was a performance, carefully humble, perfectly practiced. She just needed to tick the box and move on. So I let her. I wired 2 months of tuition directly to the school, emailed the receipt to my dad. No message, no emotion, clean and final. Then I moved on with my life. Work got busy. I took a solo trip to the coast, something I hadn't done in years. For once, my money stayed mine. I stopped budgeting for someone else's chaos and started doing small things for myself again. Melanie didn't text. Tyler didn't call. I didn't expect them to. 3 weeks later, though, I went home for my mom's birthday. She promised it would be quiet, said Melanie might stop by, but wouldn't stay long. Of course, she was already there when I arrived, acting like nothing had ever happened, handing out pie like the last year hadn't existed. She said, hi. Just neutral, polite. We got through dinner on small talk. Afterward, she asked to talk. Outside, she thanked me for helping. I didn't respond. She admitted she should have told everyone the truth, but didn't want to look like the failure. Then she said Mom told her to apologize properly, or she'd expose everything herself. So that whole apology weeks ago? Completely staged. But this time, her voice cracked a little. She said, this part's just me. I'm not proud of how I handled it. Then she said something that caught me off guard. The kids still ask about you. They think you got them back in school. I didn't correct them. For once, she wasn't defensive, just tired, real. I told her, they're lucky to have someone in the family who cares about the truth. Maybe next time, that can be you. She nodded, didn't argue, and that was that. We went back inside. She left. We've barely spoken since, just polite nods at holidays. It's not forgiveness, not friendship, just distance with boundaries. 2 weeks later, my dad mailed me a check for the exact amount I'd covered. No note, just his signature in a birthday card. I deposited it, never mentioned it again. No one asked. They all knew. And since then, not a single dollar has left my account for Melanie. Not for school, not for food, not for emergencies. The funny thing is, once you stop letting people treat your kindness like a guarantee, they start figuring things out fast. Melanie did. Maybe not gracefully, but she learned. And for the first time, I wasn't her safety net, just her sister. And that was enough.